Hey Untold Radio Network fans, want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
The paranormal, UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your host, Dr. Dean Bertram.
Greetings, all my fellow weirdos and weirdettes. Welcome to Talking Weird on the Untold Radio Network. I'm your host, Dean Bertram, and I almost didn't make it tonight. We had one heck of a storm blow through the Northwoods, which is still blowing through here, and the power in my cabin went down. So it was panic stations. I had to contact Doug and Alex at the network, and my wonderful friend, an ex-host or ex-co-host of mine when we did Talking Weird. We're not Talking Weird, rather Mysterious Library together. Jason McLean, who many of you might remember, he would have been the stand-in tonight. So in a way, you won because the show's going. In a way, you lost because Jason's a spectacular host. And if I drop out all of a sudden, Jason will jump in and cover me because that's the kind of friend he is, just in case the storm whips up and another tree falls and takes down some power line on one of the back roads on which I live. So I'm super excited actually about tonight's guest. He's so much fun. I just can't wait to chat to him. And please jump in, as you guys are so good at doing, with comments and questions in the chat. He's worked as an animal photojournalist since 1997, traveling the world to over 25 different countries, meeting and photographing people who live with all kinds of exotic animals, from tigers, grizzly bears, wolves, and kangaroos, which is my original neck of the woods, of course, to everything in between. He's also a published author and a prolific filmmaker. Indeed, with only a video camera, a flashlight, and no fear, he goes headfirst into the darkness, determined to solve the mystery of Bigfoot. He has directed multiple international award-winning Bigfoot documentaries titled Searching for Sasquatch, which I've been catching up on. And I saw some back in the day, and I watched some of the newer ones in the last 2 days, and they're fantastic. They're so much fun. And they can be seen worldwide wherever you're listening on streaming platforms such as Tubi or Amazon Prime Video, Plex TV. They're all over the place. And he has several other exciting projects in post-production and development, which we might talk about tonight as well. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome to Talking Weird, Jason Kenzie.
Hello.
Greetings. So good to have you here. Man, your movies are so much fun.
Thank you. I try and make them fun and entertaining.
It's different to everything else in the Bigfoot field, and we'll get back to your history a bit in a minute, but I can't help but talk about it. When you don't, like, I haven't made as many films as you, but I'm making a documentary movie at the moment, which I'm sometimes in front of the lens, but you don't care if you make a mistake. I'd be cutting it out. Like, there's this hilarious scene where you're leaning against a pole. I think you're in Minnesota or Ohio, somewhere in the Midwest, and you actually fall over when you're talking to this witness, and you put it in there, and it's hilarious. Like, most filmmakers would have been so mortified, they would have cut it out. You don't care?
No, I don't. And that's the thing about when I do my films is I want people to feel the realism, to kind of, I didn't want it to be so scripted and so, how do I say it, like molded perfectly. I wanted people to see that, hey, I do make mistakes, like just one mistake every year. Just one. I never make any other mistakes other than just one. But yeah, so I was talking to the eyewitness, and at one point I was leaning against a tree, and I kind of moved away from it. And so I wasn't paying attention. I thought the tree was right there, and I went to lean on it, and I went right through, and I caught myself. I was amazed that the guy that I was talking to, he didn't even miss a beat. He just he didn't try and help me up, and I kind of hurt my knee. So for the rest of the interview, my knee was throbbing, and so I'm trying not to, you know, I wanted to keep the interview going, and yeah, that was quite funny. And when I played it back later on, I just like, I'm going to put it in.
Funny, when I was watching, I thought, I think he might have hurt himself. And I was watching to see if I could see any tells on you, like, but you hit it really well, because I couldn't. But I had a feeling you hurt yourself because you went down hard, man.
Yeah, I did. I hurt myself for sure.
So maybe now let's rewind a little, because we'll talk about some of these episodes. The ones with the sea squatches, the she squatches are great as well. They're so much fun. But I know your background is animal photography and maybe animal videography, but how did you do that leap from that to Sasquatch? Can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Okay, so for many years, I would travel the world, and I would meet people and interview people who had exotic pets, something I really loved doing. And I was I was fascinated about people and their pets, and everyone has a story about their pet. May it be a 400-pound tiger, 900-pound grizzly bear, or like a chipmunk. And so everything was going great. I was making little tiny documentaries that you can find on YouTube. There's about 400 of them at the moment, and they're behind the scenes of the photo shoots that I do, and I interview the people. And then when COVID hit, or the pandemic shut down everything, I wasn't able to fly out, wasn't able to do anything, and I was kind of freaking out inside. I was bored. I needed to do something, and then someone said, "Hey, why don't you look into Sasquatch?" And me knowing animals, I thought, well, I don't think Sasquatch is real, but if they are real, then they might be some kind of an animal. So I went and talked to someone about Bigfoot, that they said they saw Bigfoot. And after that, he sent me to another person, and I started filming and interviewing the person. And they showed me First Nations people. And so I went and talked to them. And in turn, they took me deep into, took me to an area, like they pointed me into an area for me to look for these Bigfoot creatures. And I found a lake in the middle of the wilderness that had hundreds of these giant footprints that went right through. And so I had a drone. So I droned the lake, and you can see all these footprints. And knowing that it wasn't a moose, because if you ever see moose walking through water, they don't tiptoe. Like, I'm going to put 1 foot here and 1 foot here. They just go right through, and they destroy everything as they walk. And these were actual footprints you could also see from land. And so that got me hooked. And then I found like trees that were ripped out of the ground, turned upside down, jammed back into the ground, tree structures. And then I posted the video, and it went viral. And then I started getting phone calls from Bigfoot groups, wanting to fly me in and go out with them. I'll take you where you will guarantee to see these creatures. And being a skeptic, I said, okay, let's do it. And, I went to my very first Bigfoot conference to talk. And yeah, and then I got hooked. I love mysteries.
Wow. So you said you got hooked. I imagine when you first started doing it, you didn't imagine that you'd be doing like dozens of films in this space.
Not at all. I had I had no idea that I would be where I am now. I did it. The very first documentary, I kind of went in, I don't want to say, as a joke. I went in, really looking for actual evidence of these creatures, but I wasn't taking it as serious, because I was about a 20% believer back then. So now, after 5 years and all these documentaries and all these expeditions and the crazy stuff that I've seen in the forest, I'm about 50% a believer. I can't say I'm 100% believer because I haven't had a daytime sighting. So until that happens, right now 50%, but I've seen some crazy stuff in the dark forest.
We had a question from Dead End Collective saying, can you talk about moose for a moment, since you were speaking of them? They are huge animals and most people think they are docile, but up to 900 pounds. So what do they do? Like, have you ever felt threatened by a moose when you've been out there? Or?
So I have done some dumb stuff while out in the forest. Some people don't know this, but moose are one of the most dangerous animals on the planet, and probably the most dangerous animal in Canada. They're very protective of their young, and I've chased a moose and its baby through the forest to try and get photos of the baby. It's so stupid. It didn't do anything. I was kind of shocked because these moose, there was three of them. There was a female, a male, and there was a baby. And I was shocked how fast they can go through the forest with the antlers. And they're going through, and I'm jumping logs and stuff, and I'm trying to keep up, and they're gone. And you think the antlers would hit trees and whatnot, but no, for some reason they're able to move it. But yeah, and 900 pounds for a moose is still a little bit light. They can be much heavier than that. At least here, and especially up north, northern BC, there is some massive moose, or as I call them, meese.
Yeah, we just had a comment from Dale Risson, who I think he lives in Alaska, if I remember, Dale. But he says moose will kill you in a heartbeat. They will stomp you to death. Good grief.
It's true. It's true. And you don't have to do nothing. You could be walking in Alaska, you could be just walking along the sidewalk, and next thing you know, a moose is on top of you. Just comes right out from nowhere. And you don't have to do nothing. They don't even have to have any babies with them. They just go completely nuts.
Thank you, Foxy Joe. I will just say for the super sticker, we really appreciate it. It's wonderful to have you here with us, Joe. He says, good evening, gentlemen. Now, I'm sure you've had lots of frightening experiences with genuine animals, because you film I shouldn't say genuine things that science accepts as genuine animals. But when have you been the most frightened when you've been out in the field looking for Bigfoot or a close Bigfoot encounter? Has there been a moment where you've been like, yikes?
Yeah, so I was in Michigan, and there's actually been a few, but there was one where I was with Robin Haynes McRae, I was with Ernest, I was with Chad Datema, and we were in this kind of really dark forest. And just as soon as we entered into this, when I say a dark forest, when you walk in, the trees all look dead. And there's hundreds of trees. It looks like something out of Hansel and Gretel, but like the opposite of an enchanted forest. And Robin Haynes McRae, she says she can mind speak with these creatures. And so she was saying these creatures are in that area of the forest. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go. So wait till nightfall, and we took it was a giant it was a farm with giant fields, that had corn and wheat. But on the edge of this forest, at the edge of this farm, there was this big dark forest. And as soon as we got out of the truck and we all started walking, literally I pushed through and we just got right into the forest, and suddenly crash, bang, bang beside me. And I have my camera rolling, and I swing it, and I'm running into the direction going, hey guys, there's something over there. It scared the heck out of me, but I'm running, and I could hear it crashing. And then all of a sudden we turn around, and like 100 feet, 150 feet, we all were seeing eye shine from behind trees. And so we're walking towards that direction, and Robin keeps saying, Jay, I'm talking to him with my mind, and there's a young one, and the adults, the parents, stop chasing them because they're getting angry and they feel threatened. And me, being a skeptic, I keep going, and I'm catching the sound of them running, whatever they are, running through the forest. And I know some people might say there were deer, but when we were driving up to this forest, we did see some deer. And as soon as we were any close to the deer, they would just run off in the other direction, going away from the forest, running through the fields. So we're in the forest and we're seeing these eyes shine, and they're like behind the trees looking at us. And then at one point I said, "Shh, everybody, let's just turn the flashlights off and we'll sit down and we're just going to listen." And as we're sitting there in the dark, about, I want to say maybe 10 minutes, my ADHD took control of me and I couldn't sit anymore. So I got up and I walked away from everyone. And I walked over to Robin, that was kind of with the fleur, looking and going, and I thought I saw some eye shine. I'm like, wow. And it kind of blinked. And then I walked away from Robin and walked around, and I was about probably 25 feet from everyone now in the dark. And I had my video camera rolling. I didn't have it rolling, I had it on. And I come around these bushes, and right in front of me, about 20 feet, was these two big white eyes looking at me at like about 7 feet off the ground. And I'm like, click with the record button, but there's a half a second delay. And within that half a second delay before it started recording, it dropped to the ground. And I'm standing there looking at it as it's behind the bushes doing this. And I'm catching it all on film. And I am trying not to shake. But it's hard because Robin was telling me the whole time that Jay, the parents, they're mad that you're chasing it. They don't want to hurt you. Stop chasing it. So now I'm standing there with this creature looking at me in the forest, and my camera wasn't on any bit of a zoom. I was using the wide angle, and I didn't want to look down, and I just held it as steady as possible, and it was professional 4K, so I'm able to punch in a bit. But all I'm thinking in my head is I'm waiting for the parents to walk up behind me, either just twist my head off or hit me. Because here I'm like, I don't know, like I'm looking at this, and then all of a sudden I yelled to the guys. I said, guys, I'm filming it. And they come walking over, and I heard it run off. I heard it walk off. Actually, it was walking off. And Ernie comes up and he hears it going, and I caught that on camera. And that you can find on Searching for Sasquatch 6. That's all that is in that documentary. And I don't know if you've seen that one yet.
No, I've seen the first couple, and I think I watched recently. I wanted to catch up on the most recent, so I'm going to go back and check that out one as well. I think I watched maybe 8, 9, and 10. I want to say I watched one with the she squatches. In fact, they were in a couple, and we'll talk about the she squatches in a minute. We had a question which I'll kind of riff on and change just a little bit from the Dead End Collective, and he wanted to know if you thought Bigfoot are trying to be left alone, but I'll change that a little bit. Do you think that they're either trying to be left alone, or do you think they're intentionally trying to engage us? Because there seem to be so many times where they want to be seen or want to be experienced.
Yeah. So my entire time doing these documentaries and all these expeditions, everyone, I get comments from people going, leave them alone. Stop chasing them. Stop trying to find them. Well, listen, everybody. You don't find Bigfoot. Bigfoot finds you because it's their forest. They can see in pure darkness. We can't. So we can go to the area, but you're in like 100,000 hectares of forest, and you set up a camp, and what? Just so happen that the creatures come around the camp, howling, screaming, roaring at you. Let me tell you something. If they didn't make a sound, if they didn't howl, if they didn't stand off in the darkness 30 feet away or even 100 feet away and scream, we would not even know they're there at all. So it makes me wonder, it really does, if they want us to kind of know that they're there. I believe that when they start throwing stuff at you, I think it's time to kind of back away and kind of leave, because I think that the rock throwing is the last resort. I think it's getting a little bit more dangerous when they start throwing stuff. And, people go, wow, rock whizzed past me and almost hit me. I'm lucky to be alive. I'm like, well, if these creatures are really throwing stuff at you, they live in the forest, and they probably use rocks to help hunt for food. They probably throw rocks at deer or other animals to help kill them. So if the rocks are missing you, I'm pretty sure they're allowing the rocks to miss you, right? I'm still alive, and I have been so close to these creatures multiple times, and so, there's going to be, it'll take that one time that, a juvenile will just walk up and just like, hey, I'm taking you home, and just carries me off.
like the Osterman case, you'll be disappeared. You'll have to feed them chewing tobacco so you can escape.
Yeah. Like, please, can I at least throw my camera first? Save my camera.
We have a great question from Catherine Forfeathers, who's a regular listener and viewer of the show. Thank you for being with us again, Catherine. And she says, and it's a great question, when you say white eyes to you, Jason, do you mean a reflective eye shine or glowing like from within?
I have not seen the glowing eyes yet. All the eye shine that I've seen has been off the flashlights or off my infrared camera, like the light that's on the infrared. When you watch my documentaries, you will see that I catch eye shine from behind me when I'm talking on camera. And I think the creatures don't think I'm looking at them, not realizing that I'm talking on camera, and I see the eye shine, but sometimes I don't see it in real time. So I'll be at home 2 months later editing in the dark, and then all of a sudden I'll see the eye shine behind me, and it'll catch me off guard.
Speaking of eye shine, and speaking of people who talk about seeing an internal glow, which you said you haven't seen, there's obviously an argument within the Bigfoot community whether this thing is physical, like some type of hairy hominid or relic species or another undiscovered great ape, or is it paranormal, or is it a combination in between? Do you have an opinion on what this actually is?
So I've had some strange stuff happen to me. I bought a brand new cell phone that I took into the Michigan UP. And I bought it specifically because it shoots 4K. And I was going to use it with a little FLIR that you plug into it. As soon as I got to the UP, into the dark forest there, the camera did not work. The camera just did not work at all, which was very frustrating for me, because there was a few times where I really wanted to use the FLIR. And then I was there for, I think, a week in the forest. And I was mad because my cell phone was only 2 weeks old and it wasn't working. I was like, people around me, I was cursing them out. I'm like, I just bought this. I'm going to take it back to the store and ring them out. Literally, as soon as I got out of the forest and I got to the airport, the camera started working again. And it was just crazy. And in the UP, because it was searching for Sasquatch 3 and 4 that I was filming. And that's where I had the A creature. I have to tell everyone, I can't say that all these stuff that's happening to me are Bigfoots, because I never really saw it in daytime. I would see just the eye shine. But in the UP, we found a giant X like these two trees. One was kind of ripped out of the ground and moved, and the other one looked like it was pushed over because you could see the roots. The other one, it was ripped out of the ground. You couldn't see the hole, and it was moved over and put in. And there was another tree that was on top. And we're talking 20 feet, 25 feet high, and like huge trees. And I decided to sleep underneath them in a hammock tent. So, and everyone's like, Jay, don't do that. We believe that the trees stand for don't do this, don't cross. The X means stop. Either it's for us humans or for other Sasquatch. Sure enough, 2:00 in the morning, I'm sleeping there, and I'm like, sudden crack. I'm like, what the? And I'm listening, and I could hear it walking towards me. And as it was walking, I could feel the vibration off the rope every time it took a step, and it stopped about, I want to say about 10 or 15 feet from me, and it grunted in my ear. It scared me so bad because I kept thinking, oh my gosh, is it a bear? But they said there's no bears here. A wild boar? And when it grunted, I started uncontrollably shaking and trying not to poop myself. Trying. I didn't though, but it turned and it started walking away. And I yelled out I was with David Dominique, and he was, so I jumped, I yelled out, David, and he's like, Jay, yeah, what is it? And I unzipped really fast. I jumped out. I'm like, was that you walking? I turn around and he's sleeping, all bundled up about 20 feet from me, 25 feet. His back was to a big tree. I'm like, was that you walking around? I'm like, my God, how did he get in there that fast? I said, no, I was sleeping until you yelled. I said, are you kidding me? There was something here. We spent the next 15 minutes looking for, footprints but that was terrifying. And then another time in the UP, like the same time, I saw a giant, to this day, I don't know exactly what it was, but went right across the trail like a giant spider. And I remember the white eyes staring at me the whole time. And it didn't do this. The eyes were like, it was like on a gimbal or a stabilization as it went across, and just looked at me the whole time. And then it went doom into the forest. And I kept looking, going, is that a cougar? What? And I'm looking at this, and then I'm thinking the whole time that, okay, maybe I'm imagining, it was my imagination running wild, until when I came home. And 2 months later, I'm editing in the dark, and I'm talking on camera, and exactly in the same spot, you see the eye shine right over my shoulder. Like literally, I want to say 5 feet behind me, behind us, because I was with another researcher. And it was just in the forest. And it was tall, like really, really tall. And yeah, it was pretty crazy. I was very scared. And if you think for 1 second that I went and slept in the truck that night, you were right. I did. I will tell people when I get scared, and I get scared in the forest all the time. In fact, when you see me kind of joking in there, it's because I'm nervous and scared, and I calms me down,
Again, I love your joking. We had a comment before from the Pukwudgie Whisperer, who is Susie Bastille, who actually kind of set up this interview initially, and then it went through another intermediate. It went through Chad. Now, who did it go through? It went through who was the person who put me in contact with you? Chad, yeah. So thank you to him as well. But she said Bigfoot are camera shy, sabotage, obviously, but I didn't put that up to necessarily read the comment, other than to say that Susie said, ask Jason to do a Pukwudgie documentary. We had Susie on Talking Weird a couple of weeks ago. So that's an interesting question. Are there other cryptids that you want to go looking for, or other creatures you want to go looking for?
Yeah, so I'm venturing out to do all cryptids. Like I want to do way more cryptids. I'm going to be doing a Dogman documentary this summer. I'm going to Florida. I'm going to be doing the skunk ape. That'll be my second time. I have another documentary coming out. I'm going to be doing what I want to do is I want to do a Searching for Sasquatch documentary on the flying dinosaurs in New Mexico. You know, the pterodactyl like cryptid that's out there. So I'm hoping to do that. I don't know if I'm going to do it this year, maybe 2025. I don't know if I'm going to do Loch Ness Monster because, you know, you're being a boat the whole time and you're just scanning the water. You know, you have to, you know, maybe make it interesting by going into the water, you know, the nice warm water of Scotland. Well, why can't, you know, I'd love to go to Australia and do the cryptid out there.
The Yowie. There's a Yowie, which is a Bigfoot. You should go to Australia and do Searching for Sasquatch Yowie.
I want to reach out to like a Yowie group out there and see if maybe they might want to bring me out there. You know, all they have to do is just pay for my plane ticket and that's it. You know, feed me, make sure everything's safe, and we go out in the forest and I can interview people. And I would love to do the Yowie. That would be incredible. I've actually gone deep into the Mexican jungle on the edge of Belize. I went to I was looking for a 30-foot crocodile out there, and we went really deep into the forest and into the jungles, and we went into this small boat, and we actually found, like, the locals told me where it would always sit on the banks, and we found a slide that was about 6 feet wide. Like, it was a huge slide. You know, obviously the crocodile wasn't there. It was a shame. They were shocked. They were like, "Wow, it's always there." They tell me it's guaranteed. It's 30 feet long, and it's just massive. And then we did find some big black crocodiles out there. I think they're called black caiman. We did find some big ones out there. One jumped at the boat and scared the heck out of the guys. "Oh, we gotta go. It's gonna sink our boat." But I went to a Mayan ruin that hadn't had human civilization in that spot for like 45 years. And it was half the pyramids were still covered over. And here we are climbing up, and it's like one of the tallest pyramids in the, you know, in this hemisphere. So I've done a lot of kind of really cool expeditions. But hook me up. You're from Australia.
I was about to say, we in fact, he commented before, Jay Katz, who does a show on this network called Down South Anomalies with his wonderful wife Aspasia, is one of the most insightful people in Australia on all of this type of phenomenon, and he might very well be able to suggest people or hook you up. So let's talk after this and see if we can get Jay Katz involved. I do have a comment from the Dead End Collective saying, "Dean, why does the motif on your cap reflect pagan folkloric witchcraft?" I was unaware of that. If it did, it's a cowboy hat. It's a Hui hat from Texas. Dead End Collective. Now, but Jason, you were saying a minute ago that you were interested in doing one on relic pterosaurs or things that look like pterodactyls in New Mexico. If you do that, my ex-co-host on this show, Jason McLean, on Mysterious Library, the other show I did on this network, that show doesn't run at the moment, he's seen a pterosaur in Texas. There's a lot of them in Texas. So if you decide to do that, let me put you in contact with Jason McLean, who might be watching at the moment, because I've seen he was on another documentary that Lyle Blackburn and that Ken Gerhard did. Very incredible story about a sighting. And I know and trust Jason intimately. If he says he saw a pterosaur, he darn well saw a pterosaur. So people are seeing these things in the skies of the Southwest and of Texas.
Yeah, it would be really fun to do that. I would love to do that. I would, you know, I've been talking to a few people out there, and, you know, go talk to some of the First Nations people out there, and go to some of these areas that people talk about where they might be nesting. And you kind of have to be pretty agile to get to some of these places. It's you don't want to break an ankle out there in the middle of the desert. But
Absolutely. So,
you never know. You never know. I mean, my luck, I'll get picked up and flown to the nest, and I'll make friends with the babies, or I'll just have eggs for breakfast. Dun, dun.
now, tell me a little bit about your relationship with the Sasquatches, who seem like a lot of fun and super interesting ladies, because they're in a number of your more recent documentaries that I was catching up with.
Yes, I love those ladies. They are so much fun. I met them a while ago, way back, like 3 years ago, and we just kind of hit it off. They're just so much fun. They believed in what I was doing. They really liked, searching for Sasquatch. They believed in me, and they wanted to keep hanging out, and they have some interesting stories. And yeah, I recommend anyone, if you guys ever get a chance to, meet the she squatchers, go for it. And if you're able to go out with them, you guys will have a lot of fun. They take it very seriously, but at the same time, they just, they want to have fun at the same time. And that's the same here. I take it very seriously, but I like to have fun, and this is who I am. Unless you meet me in person, then I'm a complete snob. Like, where am I? Can't talk to you now.
I mean, again, that's something I've noticed with your films, is that you don't take the subject seriously, but you don't seem to take yourself over seriously. And that really is a breath of fresh air in this kind of industry, for lack of a better term, that everybody wants to position themselves as super cool and on top of everything, and it's very different. And was that something that was conscious, that you decided to do it that way, or is it just in your nature and that's what happened as you did it?
So when I was doing my animal adventures, so that's another little web series that I have called My Animal Adventures. And like I was saying before, behind the scenes of my animal photo shoots. And I've been attacked. I have been mauled in a good way throughout my animal experiences. And right away, people kind of liked it when they saw that I would make mistakes and I wasn't perfect. And I will never claim that I'm perfect. So when I started doing my documentaries on Sasquatch, I just rolled in and just do what I have to do. And if I fumble, I want the viewers to know that I'm not perfect. And if you laugh at my expense, why? I'm really hurt. But yeah, if they laugh at my expense, that's fine. If I can make people smile, that's all that matters, right? The one thing that I have that makes me want to keep doing this is the friendships I've made along the way. I've met some amazing people, and I will probably have those friends for the rest of my life. And it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't doing my documentaries. So that was very important. But the one friend that I haven't met yet, and that's the big hairy guy. So hopefully I can make good friends with him, and he doesn't want to eat me because I take.
I have another question from the Dead End Collective, and he asks you if you can speak for a moment about the sheer expanse of the outback in Texas, for example. Like that seems like if there was something unknown to be discovered, they could be lurking in these areas where there aren't a lot of people.
It's true. Texas is the largest state. Is it not? It's the largest state, even bigger than Alaska. And yeah, you don't want to get lost there. I get lost all the time, actually, believe it or not. But you want to be careful when you're in the desert. But yeah, it's so big. I mean, even where I live, the Pacific Northwest, we have millions of acres or hectares of land that's been unexplored. And like in Texas, there has to be places that people have not been, right? Places that the Google car hasn't drove by, right?
What is the most active state that you've you've been to as far as Bigfoot go? What location have you found the most active?
So I want to say, believe it or not, Texas was another. So I did a documentary, Searching for Sasquatch 5, called The Texas Screams. So I went to, it was on the border of Louisiana. We were like right on the border of Texas and the Louisiana border. And we were doing an expedition in there. And I was with Todd Parsons. And these creatures were screaming and howling and roaring, and they were all around us. It was so crazy. And at one point it went on for like an hour and a half. It wasn't like they just did it for like a minute. It was going on around us, and it got to the point where we would be talking and blah 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 blah. Oh, another one. So blah blah blah. Like, it just got to the point where it was just going on for so long all around us, and I'm there filming everything, and the coyotes were going off as well. And I loved that, because I know the sounds of coyotes compared to these other unidentified sounds that were much louder. And some of the roars, you could feel it in your body, like you can feel the vibration. At one point, we actually filmed something in the forest, and we caught that on FLIR, and it was sitting down, and then it stood up right in front of us. I mean, we couldn't see it in the dark, but we caught it on FLIR. We got a picture and some video of it. And I actually ran into the forest, and I wanted to get the sound of it walking away, which I did. You could hear it on camera. You could hear it just walking away. And so that was interesting. So I still can't say it was a Bigfoot creature. We were right next to a graveyard. So either it was a naked person that was out there with no flashlight. Now, let me tell you, it gets so dark out there. And for, someone that, doesn't have a flashlight, you'll be tripping and falling, right? So either it was, a naked farmer that was just having fun and they're watching us from a distance, or, it was an unknown creature that science don't know is real yet.
Now, you're from a part of the world which isn't that far from. We were talking about it's Harrison, right? Can you talk a little bit about the history of Sasquatch sightings there and how far they go back?
They go back hundreds of years. So the First Nation people here, they call him the hairy man of the forest out here. And yeah, it goes back hundreds of years. Sasquatch, I'm still trying to figure out why they're around Harrison. Some of the First Nation people have told me that the migration of the Sasquatch people coming from Alaska go right through Harrison all the way down to California. And they've talked about, their ancestors have told me, like they've talked about their ancestors seeing these creatures. And there's an area out here where there's a small community of First Nations people. They actually, the head of the people, they tell them, do not go out at night, because these creatures will snatch you and run off into the forest. And of course, if you think for 1 second that I would go into this area by myself, well, I did. It was crazy. It was scary as heck. In fact, that was a time my flashlight went out, and I was stupid. I didn't bring any extra batteries, and I had one flashlight, and I'm trying to get back to my camp, and the flashlight went out. I had to stop moving, and I stood and I sat down with my back towards a tree, listening to all the little critters walking in the forest. And it was pitch black. I couldn't move. I had spent the whole night. I couldn't sleep. I was just so scared. Yeah, like I said, some stupid stuff I've done when I was younger. That was a month ago. I was still younger, guys. I was still younger. But yeah.
Now, I know you have a bunch of other projects in development as well. And I know you're drifting into doing paranormal stuff as well. Can we talk about some of those other projects that you have either in pre-production or post-production or whatever you want to talk about?
So I started doing the paranormal. I call them Paranormal Adventures. I have 2 documentaries done. One is of a haunted hospital, and the other one had to do with a haunted house. The haunted hospital, I was with some incredible paranormal investigators, and we caught like EVPs of them saying my name. There was one case I asked a question, how did he die? And on the recorder it came back as, how did I die? Like in this really deep voice. And if when you watch the documentary, you see me like, whoa, oh my God, what the? No. I'm like, get up. And then a female said my name. The second time was a lot of fun. Went up to Merritt, and we went to like a haunted house there, and that was fun. That was fun. I was first time using those what do you call it? Those rods,
Dowsing rods.
dowsing rods. Yeah, and that was at one time I asked the question. So, are you friendly? Cross if you're not friendly, and suddenly it went like this, and it pressed against my arms, like it actually had pressure. And so that was a lot of fun. And then I just finished editing my next documentary for the paranormal. And we went and looked into the lore of the Poplick Bridge or trestle and the Goatman. And so we went there and we did some interviews and we went into the forest. I don't know if you haven't noticed this, but I put more adventure into my documentaries than I do talking heads, because I really love the adventure. And a lot of documentaries out there on Bigfoot are just talking heads, right? And that's fine. The talking heads move the story, but I really like doing the adventures. And then we went to the Haunted Story Inn in Indiana, so that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I got so many ticks. It was crazy. So many. I got like 8 ticks. I had like Lyme disease kind of like up and down my arm. It was crazy. All the rings and everything.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It was like I had like 9 ticks, and at one time I had like 5 rings all around me, and it hasn't affected me at all. No, I went to 3 doctors. The first 2 told me that there's no such thing as Lyme disease. And then I went to a third doctor, and I was so lucky because he was an extreme expert on Lyme disease, because one of his family members was very ill with Lyme disease. And so he went and got me the medicine, and I took it. And now I'm only 20% crazy instead of 80%. So
we did get a comment from Jay Katz, and he said to put you in detail in contact with him, and he'll be able to talk to you about if you want to go to Australia and get in contact with the Yowie.
Let's do that. I would love to make that happen.
Well, Jay Katz is the man that can help if anybody can. Now, on a more serious note, because it's hard to be serious with you because you're so much fun, but you make a passing joking comment, and I don't know if it's the Minnesota or the Ohio one I watched recently about maybe I'll disappear like a missing 411 story or something. Do you think Bigfoot's involved with missing 411 type disappearances? Because you talked about Native American traditions before about them taking people.
Well, if these Bigfoot people, if Bigfoot are truly 100% real, and if that's the case, there's thousands of them because they're in so many different areas. And that would mean that they're like humans, in a sense that not all Bigfoots are going to have the same personality. Just like humans, there's nice humans, then there's bad humans. Then there's humans that would do harm to you, And then there's other ones, because I've interviewed eyewitnesses who said that they were saved. One guy was attacked by a cougar, and a Bigfoot came out from nowhere and just kicked it like a football, and the cougar went out of sight. So I would not be surprised if the 411, that people were gone missing because of these creatures. I do have a theory, though, about hunters. You want to hear my theory? So I've interviewed lots of hunters who have said that they were quietly waiting, and when they saw like a family, or they saw one Bigfoot, and they were looking at it through the scope. And of course, the question on everybody's minds are, why didn't you take the shot? If you took the shot, then the world would know that Bigfoot's real, right? Then I've talked to eyewitnesses, hunters, who have told me stories of friends or friends of friends who have gone missing in the forest and have never been seen again, or they've found the body and the body's ripped apart and hanging from trees. Well, I think those hunters that are never seen again or are found ripped apart are the ones that took the shot. That's what I think. I think that they either shot and killed the Bigfoot, and the family or the other Bigfoots around just went after him, or they took the shot and they wounded it and it came after him. That's what I think. Because, you always hear about the hunters that survive, and then you hear of hunters that disappear. Why? Why is it some hunters are left alone and other hunters are like just taken and gone? Right? Maybe they took the shot and they paid with their life.
There are some scary Bigfoot stories out there, and I know you've said that there have been moments where you've been a little scared out in the woods, as I would be if I was out there and heard these kind of things. But what's the scariest Bigfoot story you've been told in all of your many interviews with people?
Well, there was a hunter, and he was hunting, and he had his dogs, and the hunter shot. What was he shooting? He shot. I think he shot a deer, and it ran off. And his two dogs went into the forest, going after the deer, and he heard a ruckus and a scream from one of the dogs, and he goes running, and he turns around the bushes, and there is a Bigfoot with both dogs and the deer under the arm. The Bigfoot just looked at the guy, did a little nod, turned and walked into the forest, and never saw his dogs again. Of course, he did not want to go on film. I tried so hard. I'm like, please, for the love of God, let me interview you. People would love this. But he did not. All his friends think that he killed his dogs. Right? They don't believe his story. So he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to sound crazy. I tried so hard. And I've interviewed quite a few people that never wanted to go on film. Right? A police officer that saw a spaceship that was hovering over trees. And there was a flash of light, and then it took off, and then there was two giant Bigfoots walking towards her car. And she put the car in drive and just took off. And after like months and months of convincing her, trying to get her to come on film, she finally agreed after I told her I would black her out, change her voice, and make it so no one would ever know, because she was an ex-law enforcement officer. So she was still friends with some of these police officers, and she did not want to go, didn't want to be called crazy. But she never told anyone for years.
Documenting the weird and the paranormal and the strange and having to deal with witnesses, as you mentioned, can be difficult because people don't always want to tell their story on tape. Is that the most difficult thing you find about trying to make films about Sasquatch, or what is the hardest thing about making films in this space, do you think?
Well, at one time my friends are like, Jay, if you continue down this path, people are going to think you're crazy. And I say, I don't care. I am crazy. So why not? Right? The hardest part is meeting some people that they will actually tell you that you're crazy to your face, or they'll roll their eyes, right? And they don't, before I even tell them that, I'm partially a skeptic. Like I want to question everything, right? So, that's one of the hardest parts, and trying to get people to talk about it. I don't mind blacking people out and changing their voice. In fact, I love it because it kind of shows a little bit more cred, because they're not going for fame, right? So it looks better on film too, like when they don't want to show themselves. Heck, I don't want to show myself. So I should just black myself out. Can you imagine? I'm just running around all blacked out. But Kenzie, the blur.
I think I read you have like a survival type Bigfoot show coming
Yes.
out or something. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So it's still in talks, and it's going to happen. So it'll be like 2 or 3 researchers travel deep into the forest by helicopter, getting dropped in, and surviving for 5 days at the same time, searching for these creatures. So having like a combination of both. So we'll do the lean tent, and then make the fort, and spend like 6 hours trying to make fire with with wood. Screw that. I'm going to be using a match. I'm sorry, people. I am going to use a lighter. I can make fire with sticks. The question is, do I want to? No, I don't. Right. So that's what I want to do. And it's going to happen. I don't know exactly where yet. Either it's going to be in BC, or it's going to be like the New York State, like northern New York State. So, it might be in the northern part of the UP of Michigan.
Maybe it'll become a hit and you'll do different ones in different states and different areas. That would be cool.
Wouldn't that be kind of cool? I'll be like a skeleton by the end. Couldn't find any food. Now, what he sneezed, and I barely held on to the tree. The wind was so strong.
Now, I'd like you now to. You've been such a wonderful guest. It's been such a great joy having on the show. And it's like, as I've said multiple times throughout to you beforehand, I love how much fun you are in these shows. People should really go.
You're a good liar.
People should go and check out Searching for Sasquatch on multiple platforms. And I'd like you to just let people know where they can see what you're doing, and also show us your graphic novel and where they can get that.
So I did a graphic novel. It's called Searching for Sasquatch and the Hidden Treasure of Bigfoot Valley. And as you can see, so it has Todd Parsons, has the She Squatchers, has David Dominique, and as you can see, Tammy is the one that's being upside down by the Bigfoot. And it's just a fun story. We actually find treasure in the mountains of Bigfoot. While we were trying to find proof of Bigfoot, we stumbled through a portal, and we're in this new land that has pterodactyls, and it has these Bigfoot creatures. And we find this treasure, and within the treasure, there is some kind of an object that gives the Bigfoot people their powers of invisibility, cloaking and strength, and their singing ability, howling, and so I get greedy, so I want the treasure. I lose my video camera, so I get this gold so I can buy a new video camera, and leave me alone. It's dangerous, Jay, and and I'm greedy. And then there's a twist at the end, and it's a lot of fun. I want to say that if people watch Searching for Sasquatch 10, the Minnesota Roars, in that documentary, we're going to show some incredible Bigfoot roars or unidentified roars. Some of the best I've ever heard in my life. Like, these roars are just unbelievable. And there's 4 different audio clips, and there's one small one, and then there's a second one that has like 4 or 5 of them, just all screaming and howling and roaring and all around it. It's crazy. And that'll be a lot of fun. But you can watch it on Tubi. You go to Tubi. You can find my graphic novel on Amazon, Walmart.com, Barnes and Noble. They're all over the place. If you would just Google Jason Kenzie, you will find all my animal adventures. Jason Kenzie, my animal adventures, Jason Kenzie searching for Sasquatch, or even Bigfoot. You'll find, like, if you like animals and like watching me, try and get shots of bobcats and a lady with 5 wolves. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I hope everyone can appreciate the hard work. And if anyone wants to do an expedition with me, just reach out. I'm going to be speaking at a few Bigfoot conferences coming up. The Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Festival, that I'm going to be there. I'm going to one in Oregon. There's going to be a Bigfoot festival in Oregon, which is going to be a lot of fun. And people just come say hi, and you can buy a comic book. You can get something signed. You can just get a picture with me and tell me your Bigfoot story. That's important, for sure. I want everyone to. If you want to go and film, I don't mind filming the interview with you, talking about your experience.
Well, you were just a wonderful guest. If you're ever central to North Wisconsin way, let me know, because I'd love to
Really?
come out and hang out with
That's so
you,
funny
Jason.
you said that. That's funny you said that, because I'm going to Wisconsin this summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm going to be interviewing Jay.
Jay Bachochin, we've had him on Talking Weird. It was one of the first shows we did when we moved to the Untold Radio Network, actually. He's great.
Well, I tell you what, I am looking for for a few eyewitnesses to speak, and then we're going to go out on an expedition with him. You're more than welcome to, if you want to reach out to Jay, and if you want to come out, I can meet you and interview you, and maybe you can come out with us. I think that would be wonderful. We always need an Australian to go out there. The accent, right? The accent. It's always the Australians that get taken first in all these films. I'm telling you, it's great. I'll feel safe with you.
Yikes! I'll have to put on a Steve.
Aussie. Take the Aussie.
I'll have to put on my Steve Irwin crocodile hunter outfit from back in the day. But listen, it was so much fun having you. Thanks so. Well, I want to have you back as well in a not too distant future. Thank you, Jason, for popping on Talking Weird. It was a great joy.
Well, I'll talk to you guys all. See ya.
And until I talk to everybody else out there, and to you as well, Jason, please keep it weird.
Oh,